My name is Moriah Graham. I'm 24, I'm from Delaware, and I instructed a flight school called Flight Gateway. I started flying at 17, that's when I got my first pilot's license, and I got my pilot's license in high school through a program, through AFJ ROTC. What got me into flying was my love of space, my love of science, and I like to go fast, so I decided that I wanted to do that. I originally wanted to be an astronaut, but I fell in love with flying so much, and I couldn't go into the Air Force, so I just decided to stick with this instead. What it's like being a female aviator, specifically a black female aviator, is that I occupy a lot of spaces where I don't see other people that look like me. It's pretty hard to have a sense of family and a sense of home in the workplace or in the aviation field when you walk into the cockpit or you walk into an airplane and people are sort of taken aback by what you look like. I remember one time I did a solo cross country in my commercial flight training to Alabama, and I was the only person in the plane. I got out, the person that parked my plane looked at me and wondered where the other person was. So things like that happen, not too often, but often enough to where it kind of can become a problem. And I think one of the biggest challenges that I've had to face in my flying career is the internal will to keep going and to make sure that other people don't deter me from my goals and my path. It's really, really hard, especially when you start flying at such a young age of 16, 17, during your formative years, to be able to turn off the noise of other people and what they have to say. I've had people tell me that I should just stop flying because I'm wasting my time. I've had people tell me I'm only here for a diversity quota, not because I'm smart enough, not because I'm good enough. And the satisfaction of working hard enough to get to where I am, to be able to prove all of them wrong, and to be able to prove to myself that I can do it, has made it all worth it. I think the unique thing about being a pilot, specifically a pilot as a profession, is the physical and mental toll that it can take on you and on your body. Pilots are sort of artists, but also athletes, because we have to be physically fit, but we also have to be incredibly precise, and we also have to be incredibly aware. One thing that I see my students when they first start out struggle with is something called task saturation, which is where you're doing so many things at one time, your mind becomes overloaded and mentally you can't be able to process the information that's going on. So when you're first starting out in your flight training, if you're unaware of how to do one thing at a time, how to stay ahead of the airplane, and you fly the airplane, you don't let the airplane fly you, it's very easy to become overwhelmed. And a lot of times people can use their ability to either stay calm or to be overwhelmed as sort of a litmus test for if they're good enough to become a pilot or not. But that's not the case. It just takes the time, effort, and energy to develop those skills to be able to do multiple things at once while also keeping your cool and while also not getting stressed out. Physically, flying is rough sometimes. We fly in hot weather. There's not always air conditioning on the planes. You're not always able to drink water. I've had days where I've had one meal a day, and that was at midnight. It was my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So physically and emotionally, mentally, flying can take a really big toll on you. But I think it's all worth it. I think the biggest thing that has helped me not give up is just to consistently remind myself of my goals and to encourage myself and say that I can do it. A lot of times in flight training, instructors forget this, but it's their job to keep their students motivated. It's my job to keep my students motivated, and those are tools that I've developed that I will carry with me into my airline career. Flying is really good at developing grit internally in pilots, and I think it's the dedication that helps you keep going. It's the reminding yourself that you can do this that helps you keep going. And it's the sense of community and the sense of family that helps you keep going as well. If it weren't for the people that were in my corner, if it weren't for the professors that I had that believed in me, when I had professors tell me that I couldn't do this, I've had professors tell me that I can't even fly, let alone teach, and I should just quit. And so it was the people that were in my corner that encouraged me to keep going, to help me get to where I am. It was something inside of me that I had to dig deep inside and I had to pull out of, that came from inside myself to tell myself that I can do this, that helped me keep going. So I think it's really easy to give up, but it's the grit that helps you keep going. My experience with bullying and how it impacts mental health is something that has been very prevalent in my flight training and in my flying career. When I first started flying, I was in high school, I was 16, and I was the only black person in my entire class. There were 10 of us, and I was one of 2 women and the only black person. And I think that those experiences back then are something that molded me into who I am today. It was actually when I was 16 that someone told me, yeah, you got into this program because you're a diversity quota, not because you're good enough. And he was obviously upset that he didn't get in, but it's something that I kind of internalized. So every time I messed up in my career, I thought to myself, oh my God, they're right. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm just here because they just wanted a black person and a token. I would tell myself that. So it wasn't until I was in my 20s I was able to overcome these negative thought patterns and this negative thinking that impacted me so heavily. And I think that a lot of my flight training was held back because I was always internalizing my mistakes as a reflection of my poor performance and not maybe the instructor's teaching something wrong. Maybe I'm just learning differently from other people. Maybe I just need to get creative and try different ways. So I think that once I got instructors that encouraged me and said that I could do this and that believed in me and that listened to me and that called out the racism and sexism that I experienced, I think that's when I really started to excel in my career. And I think had I had instructors recognize this sooner, my training would have gone a lot differently. One way now that I pay it forward is that I'm constantly looking out for my students and constantly encouraging them on the ground or in the air. I've had students cry in the plane. I've had students call me and tell me they want to give up. I've even cried in the plane. I always say if you're not crying during flight training, you're doing something wrong because it's hard, but it's worth it. So I'm constantly looking out for them. If I see that they are starting to mentally decline, if I see that their performance is starting to plateau, if I see that they're starting to give up, I remind them of their goals. I remind them of why they're here. And it's my job to keep them motivated. So to pay it forward, I'm doing just that. I have the incredible pleasure of being involved with a group called Aviation Youth Mentoring Program, or AYMP, and the benefit of that is that they have amazing resources for kids who want mentorship or for kids who are looking to get into aviation, not just with flight training, but they offer so many opportunities from flight training to air traffic control to engineering, maintenance, things like that. So if any of you know anyone who is interested, or if anyone is interested in being a mentor, feel free to go to aymp.world.